I caught my brother in bed with my fiancée. My family forgave them and tried to reconcile us, so I disappeared. But now karma hit them hard and they're begging, hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I just want to ask for a quick favor. We've noticed the channel's been losing a bit of traction lately, and honestly, subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us out. It's quick, it's free, and it helps us keep bringing you more of these wild stories. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now, let's get into it. This is a throwaway account. Disclaimer: I never thought I'd be one of those guys pouring out his life story on Reddit, but here we are. Fair warning, this one's long, and yeah, it's pretty messed up. I'm 25, male, and I grew up in Colorado in what looked like a typical middle-class family from the outside. But man, the dynamics inside that house, completely different story. My brother Mike, 24, has been mom's golden child for as long as I can remember. You know, the type he could literally take a crap on the carpet and mom would praise him for thinking outside the box. That was Mike while I was busting my ass working construction with my uncle during summers starting at 16. Mike got to explore his artistic side, which basically meant smoking weed in the basement and chasing his YouTube pipe dream. Or he's had some excuse lined up for him. He's just finding himself. Or he's sensitive. He needs space to grow. Meanwhile, if I came home after a 12-hour shift and didn't jump straight into helping with dishes, I was lazy, I was irresponsible. I needed to learn discipline. Don't get me wrong, I was still your average suburban kid in a lot of ways. Played football in high school. We made it to the state finals my senior year. Would have won too if our quarterback hadn't wrecked his ankle in the third quarter. On weekends, I was under the hood of a car with my dad, probably the only time I felt free from mum's constant comparison games. Then there's my sister, Emma, 22, the smart one, always had her nose in a book. She was more in tune with dad, not in a weird favorite child way, but they just clicked. She'd help him with crossword puzzles while I worked on the car. It was a good balance, peaceful even. College was the turning point where I started pulling ahead of Mike. Not mom ever admitted it. I worked my way through civil engineering at Colorado State. Spent weekends pouring concrete and hauling bricks so I wouldn't drown in student loans. Mike dropped out of community college after 2 semesters because the system stifled his creative spirit, or whatever excuse mom bought that week, but I was thriving. Decent grades, good friends, landed a job at a big-name commercial construction firm right after graduation. The pay wasn't great at first, but, for my age, was solid, and I got to work with my hands building real things, not just pushing papers. That's when I met Rachel. She was doing her student teaching at the elementary school next to one of our job sites. I used to spot her during my lunch breaks sitting with her kids during recess. One day a kid's ball rolled over onto our site and I brought it back. We started talking and man, I really thought she was different. She wanted to be a teacher. Loved kids, came from a solid family. Basically everything I thought I wanted in a partner. Mum loved her from day one, which should have been my first red flag in hindsight. She'd invite Rachel to family dinners even when I had to work late at the site. Rachel and Mike would spend hours in the living room talking about movies, music, life while I was out busting my back trying to build a future for us. It's so nice that you and Mike get along so well. Mom would beam like she'd personally orchestrated it. After 3 years together, I proposed last December, had it all planned, took her up into the mountains. Same spot we had our first real date. Got down on one knee in the snow. She said yes. I thought I had it all figured out. We even put a down payment on a house near my parents. Rachel said she wanted 3 kids. Said she wanted to raise them close to family. Your mom's going to be such an amazing grandmother, she used to say. Jesus, the signs were all there, weren't they? Looking back, they were everywhere. How she'd always have an excuse to hang out at my parents' house when I was working weekends. How she and Mike had these little inside jokes I was never part of. How mom would randomly say weird stuff like they're so alike, or they get each other on a deeper level. But you know how it is, you never want to believe the people you love are capable of betraying you like that. I remember this one dinner about a month before everything fell apart. Rachel was telling some story from her school, and Mike just finished her sentence perfectly. They both laughed like it was the most natural thing in the world. Mom sat there watching them with this weird satisfied smile. Dad and Emma exchanged this look across the table. I didn't realize what it meant. I was too focused on work. I was blind. Then came the day everything went to hell. It was a Tuesday in April. I remember it clearly because we were supposed to pour concrete at a new office site, but the supplier botched the schedule. My foreman told me to take the afternoon off. Normally I'd catch up on paperwork, but that day I thought, hey, maybe I'll surprise Rachel with lunch. She was always saying I worked too much. I got home around 1 p.m. Mike's beat-up Jeep was in our driveway. That rust bucket mom and dad bought him for his 21st, even though he'd already totaled 2 other cars. I should have known right then something was off. He was supposed to be at his part-time job at the music store, his latest career that mom was subsidizing, but maybe he was just visiting. Telling Rachel about another brilliant idea, right? The front door was unlocked. I could hear music upstairs, All of Me by John Legend, our engagement song. Clothes were scattered up the stairs. His band t-shirt, her teacher's sweater. You know that moment in movies where everything slows down and the sound fades? That was me, just standing there, staring at that damn sweater I bought her for Christmas lying on our stairs like a neon sign screaming at me. I'm not going to describe what I saw when I opened that door. You can figure it out. But here's the part that really broke me. They didn't even notice me at first. They just kept going like I didn't exist. When they finally saw me, Mike actually had the balls to say, "Oh shit, bro," like he knocked over a beer or something. Rachel just started crying, wrapping herself in sheets, saying, "Oh God, on repeat like a broken record. Mike just sat there looking at me with this twisted mix of guilt and relief, like he was glad it was finally out. I didn't yell, didn't throw punches. God knows I wanted to. I just turned and walked out, went to my truck, sat there for over an hour. Eventually they both came out. Mike ran to his Jeep. Rachel stood on the porch in a robe, mascara streaked down her face. When I finally walked back inside, I asked one question: how long? She tried dodging, said things just happened. She never meant to hurt me. I kept asking. Eventually she broke to years, 2F ******* years, since right after I started taking extra weekend shifts to save for her ring. Every time I worked overtime thinking I was building our future, she was with him. Every lesson plan session at my parents' house, she was with him. She tried to explain it. Sat on the couch, I spent 3 paychecks on talking about how she developed feelings for Mike, how they connected through music and art in a way I never did, how she still loved me, but was in love with him. I told her she had until the end of the day to pack up and leave. She cried again, said she needed time, that we needed to talk. I left, went to Home Depot, bought new locks. By the time I got back, she was gone, left a 5-page handwritten note. I still have it somewhere, full of crap about how sorry she was, how she never planned this, how Mike made her feel understood. I called my boss, told him I needed a few days, changed every password I had, bank accounts, socials, everything. Blocked both their numbers. The only reason I knew what happened next was because of Emma. Apparently Rachel ran straight to my parents' house, cried to Mom in the garden, confessed everything, and what did my mother do? She hugged her, told her everything happens for a reason, that maybe this was for the best. She even made her stay for dinner the same day. I caught her in bed with my brother. Mike showed up to had this little speech ready about how love just happens, and they didn't know how to tell me. Mom nodded along like it was some heartwarming Hallmark drama. Dad just stared at his plate. Emma stormed out. Rachel moved back in with her parents at first, but within a week she was spending every night at my parents' house, in my old room, with my brother and Mom. She was happy about it. She encouraged it. Told Mike Rachel was more his type. Told Rachel how alike they were. Those next few days were a blur. Emma brought over pizza, sat with me while I oscillated between rage and numbness. She told me, Mom was already saying one day we'll laugh about this. That weekend, Rachel emailed me, wanted to talk about splitting up our stuff. I told her to take whatever she wanted. I didn't want a single reminder of her. She took most of the furniture, including that couch, left me with an empty apartment and an engagement ring I'm still paying off. And then came the real head trip. Mom began this slow, twisted campaign to normalize it, like it was some fated love story, like the betrayal was just destiny. She'd bring up random memories, rewriting history, trying to make it sound like Mike and Rachel were always meant to be. Like the music festival they went to together 2 years ago. The one Mom convinced me not to go to because I needed to focus on my career. Yeah, turns out that's when they first hooked up. Mom knew and she'd been encouraging them to spend more time together because Rachel, but brought out a better side of Mike. Meanwhile, I was working 60-hour weeks trying to save up for a house, for a wedding, for the future I thought we were building. The worst part, Mom started suggesting maybe this was all my fault. You were always so focused on work, she'd say. Or, Rachel needed someone who could understand her creative side. Like my crime was working hard to build a life, instead of sitting in a basement, smoking weed and finding myself like Mike. Then this supervisor position opened up at our Texas branch. The pay was better, significantly better, and honestly, I needed an escape plan. The same day I heard about the opening, I found out Mom had helped Rachel move some of her things into Mike's room. My old room. The room where I'd spent countless nights studying while Mike was out partying. The room where I'd planned my future with Rachel. And now they were sleeping in there together. With Mom's blessing, I didn't tell anyone about the job offered, not at first. Kept it to myself while I sat back and watched my family bend over backwards to accommodate the 2 people who had completely betrayed me. Emma was the only one who seemed to truly grasp how up it all was, but even she was starting to crack under Mom's pressure. Maybe we should try to understand their side, she said one day, not meeting my eyes. That's when I knew I had to get out, but before I could tell anyone I was moving, Thanksgiving happened. Boy, did it happen. I walked into my parents' house. And there they were, Mike and Rachel, sitting at the kitchen table like nothing had ever happened. Rachel was wearing that sweater I bought her last Christmas, looking all cozy and completely at home. Mike had his arm resting around a chair, and Mom, she was beaming at them, like they were the royal couple. The moment I walked in, the whole room went quiet. You know that kind of silence, the kind that's so heavy it wraps around you, thick enough to slice. Yeah, that. Then Mom launches into this speech about healing as a family and learning to forgive. Dad just sat there nodding like one of those bobbleheads people keep on dashboards. And Emma, she was sitting next to them, actually sitting with them, looking at me with these guilty eyes. Then Mom drops the bomb. She had invited Rachel's parents to, wanted to bring the families together, because Mike and Rachel were getting serious. Like they hadn't been behind my back for 2 years. Like they hadn't destroyed every single plan I had for the future. After seeing Mike and Rachel sitting there at my parents' table like they owned the place, I just broke. You know that moment when everything suddenly becomes crystal clear. Like when you're drunk and, in an instant, you're completely sober. Yeah. I walked out. Didn't say a word. Mom was calling after me something about family and healing, and whatever other she'd rehearsed, but I just kept walking. Got in my truck. Drove to McDonald's. Eating a Big Mac on Thanksgiving sounds depressing as right. But honestly, that sad little meal in my truck was better than watching my family pretend everything was normal while they passed the gravy to the people who destroyed my life while I sat there, surrounded by the only other people sad enough to be at McDonald's on Thanksgiving. I started making a list, on my phone, everything I needed to do, to disappear, not witness protection level disappear, but this entire situation disappear. The Texas job, already lined up, my boss had practically been begging me to take it. The company was expanding, like crazy down there, and they needed someone who could handle big projects. First thing I did, went to the bank, opened a new account at a completely different bank, transferred every penny from my old joint accounts. Thankfully Rachel and I never fully merged finances. The teller gave me this knowing look when I closed the accounts. Turns out, her ex had drained their joint account when he left, so she was extra careful making sure every step was documented. Next was the phone. Did you know that if you're on a family plan, the primary account holder can see every number you call or text? Yet Mom had been using that to keep tabs on me for years. I went to a different carrier, got a new number, new phone, everything. The guy at the store even helped me transfer all my important data without linking anything back to my old accounts. Social media was next, but before I nuked everything, I downloaded all my photos, all my messages. Then I started blocking people. Mike, Rachel, Mom, Dad, their friends, their relatives, everyone who chose their side. I didn't block Emma, but I didn't friend her. She was still stuck in the middle. And I just couldn't deal with that either. Changed my email, created brand new social media accounts under a different name for work stuff. The apartment, that was trickier, still had 4 months on the lease, but my landlord was surprisingly cool. Turns out he'd gone through something similar with his brother. He let me break the lease with just a 1-month penalty. I started packing that night, threw out anything Rachel and I bought together, even that couch she left behind, posted it for free on Craigslist. Some college kids came and picked it up within an hour. I was supposed to start the Texas job in January, but I called my boss, told him I needed to start earlier, made up some about wanting to get settled before the holidays. He was thrilled, said they could use the help ASAP. Found an apartment in Houston through a guy at work, signed the lease electronically, paid the deposit the same day. The next week, a blur of packing, logistics, and planning. I told only 2 people what I was doing: my best friend from the crew and my old foreman. They helped me load the U-Haul. No questions asked. My foreman even warned me that Mom had been calling the office looking for me. The irony. While I was packing, Mom kept leaving voicemails, trying to arrange this big family meeting to work things out. Kept talking about how we needed to heal together. About how running away from problems doesn't solve them. Rich, coming from the woman who's been running from reality for years, pretending her precious golden child could do no wrong. The day I left, December 15th, was cold as hell. Frost on the windows, breath turning white in the air. Felt appropriate. Honestly, I got up at 4 a.m., loaded the last boxes, hit the road before the sun even thought about rising. Didn't leave a note. Didn't tell anyone goodbye. Just got in my truck, U-Haul hitched to the back, and started driving south. Mom must have figured something out quickly, because by the time I hit Kansas, my phone was blowing up. Calls, messages from random relatives. Apparently she'd gone to my apartment, found it empty. It started calling everyone, crying about how I'd abandoned the family, how she was worried sick. I just kept driving. Somewhere in Oklahoma, I got a friend request on Instagram from an account I didn't recognize that was Mom. Trying to be sneaky, her message was a masterpiece. Why would you move without telling us? We're your family. We miss you and need you home for the holidays. We can work through this together. I replied with the most satisfying message I've ever written. You only have 1 son left. I'm not part of that family anymore. Then, I blocked her new account and kept driving. I hit Texas that night, checked into a hotel too tired to deal with moving in. Laid there in that bland, generic hotel room, staring at the ceiling. And you know what? For the first time in months, I actually slept through the night. No stressed dreams, no waking up furious, just peace. I found out later that Mom had a complete meltdown after reading my message, started calling everyone in the family, crying about how her baby boy was making rash decisions, how she'd failed as a mother. Yeah, no underscore, you failed, Mom, just not in the way you think. So there I was, in Texas, actually starting to build a real life. Got promoted to project manager within 3 months. Turns out, when you're not being emotionally strangled by your family, every week you can focus. Bought myself a new F2150, the kind Mike always wanted but could never afford because artists don't care about material things. Started training MMA at a local gym. Figured I needed a healthy outlet for the rage, and for once I was actually sleeping through the night. Then, it happened. It was a Wednesday in January when I got the call. I was on site, reviewing plans with my foreman, when my phone buzzed. Didn't recognize the number, but it had a Colorado area code. Almost didn't answer. Kind of wish I hadn't. It was Aunt Susan, Mom's sister, the only reasonable one in the family. She was crying, which immediately set off alarms because Aunt Susan never cries. Said Mom had been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, terminal, 3 months to live, maybe less. Said Mom was asking for me, wanted to make peace before, you know. I sat there in my truck for an hour after that call, just staring at the dashboard. Called my boss, told him I needed a few days, booked a flight to Colorado for the next morning, even packed a underscore suit because I thought, well, you know what, I thought the whole flight, I kept thinking about Mom. Yeah, she'd underscore up big time, but she was still my mother. I started remembering the good times, her at my football games, making me soup when I was sick, teaching me how to drive in that beat-up Subaru. By the time the plane landed, I'd convinced myself maybe this was a sign, maybe we could fix things before it was too late. Aunt Susan picked me up. Should have known something was off. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Said Mom was home. Wanted to see me right away. I walked into that house. The house I grew up in. The house I hadn't set foot in since Thanksgiving. There they all were. Mom, Dad, Mike, Rachel, Emma, even Rachel's parents. No hospital bed, no oxygen tank, no chemo, no medical equipment. Mom looking healthy as ever, wearing her favorite gardening sweater. The silence. Deafening. Mom started crying. Her fake crying. The kind where she makes sure everyone sees her tears. Said she had to do something to get me home. Said she couldn't bear to see her family torn apart. Mike and Rachel holding hands, looking guilty but also satisfied, like they really thought this was going to fix everything. You know that moment in movies where the hero finally snaps? That cold, calm fury where everything clicks into place? Yeah, that happened. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and I saw her for what she truly was, a manipulative, toxic woman who spent her whole life enabling one son while slowly destroying the other. You faked having cancer. I said it so quietly they had to lean in to hear me. You faked having terminal cancer to manipulate me into coming back. Mom tried to justify it, started talking about how desperate times call for desperate measures, how a mother will do anything to keep her family together. Rachel actually nodded along, like this was somehow reasonable behavior. Mike just stared at the floor, probably already thinking about how he could turn this into material for his shitty poetry. Dad finally spoke up, trying to play peacemaker like always. Son, your mother just wants to fix things. We all miss you. Mike and Rachel are engaged now, and we need to find a way to be a family again. That's when I lost it, not violently. I was past that. I just started laughing. Couldn't stop. Here was my family who'd betrayed me in every possible way, who'd lied about cancer, sitting there expecting me to just fall in line with their delusion. I looked at each of them in turn. You know what the funny thing is? I actually felt guilty on the plane. I was thinking about all the good memories, wondering if I'd been too harsh, but this, I gestured around the room. This is actually a gift, because now I know with absolute certainty that I made the right choice, cutting you all out of my life. Mom started wailing, real crying this time, the ugly kind she usually keeps private because it ruins her makeup. Mike stood up, probably about to try some brotherly crap, but I just held up my hand. The only reason I came back was because I thought my mother was dying. Congratulations, Mom. You just killed any chance of ever having a relationship with me again. I turned around and walked out. Could hear them calling after me. Mom's cries getting more hysterical by the second. Rachel actually tried to follow me, saying something about understanding my pain. I just kept walking. Aunt Susan was waiting in her car, crying for real this time. Turns out Mom had manipulated her too. Told her I was suicidal and needed an intervention. Said the cancer story was the only way to get me home. Classic Mom. Using everyone's emotions against them. I got an Uber to the airport, caught the next flight back to Texas, blocked every Colorado number in my phone except Aunt Susan's. She'd earned the right to stay connected after exposing Mom's manipulation. After the cancer stunt, I threw myself into work, into building my new life in Texas. Started dating Sarah, this awesome girl I met at my MMA gym. She was different from Rachel in every way, independent, straightforward, zero interest in playing family politics. She'd heard bits and pieces of my story through mutual friends, but never pushed me to talk about it. Just accepted me as I was, baggage and all. Things with Sarah were going great. She was a trauma nurse, worked crazy hours like me, understood the value of hard work in a way Rachel never did. We'd been together almost a year when Christmas rolled around. Her family invited me to spend the holidays with them in Dallas. Normal family, good people. Her dad was a retired firefighter who actually wanted to hear about my construction projects. Her mom kept trying to feed me more ham and wouldn't take no for an answer. It felt healthy. Real. Christmas Eve was perfect. Sarah's mom made this incredible fettuccine alfredo, their family tradition. We exchanged gifts, watched old Christmas movies. For the first time in years, I felt like maybe I could have this kind of normal family life again. Should have known better. Christmas morning started out great too. More food, more presents, more of that warm family feeling I'd been missing. Then Sarah's mom mentioned they were expecting some family friends for dinner. I didn't think much of it at first, even helped set up extra chairs in the dining room. The doorbell rang around 4 p.m. Sarah's mom went to answer it, and I heard them before I saw them. My mother's voice, trying to sound sweet and concerned like she always did when she had an audience. My whole body went cold. I turned around and there they were, Mom, Dad, Emma, Mike, and Rachel standing in the doorway like some fucked up Christmas card. That's when I saw Sarah's face. Not surprised, just guilty. She'd known. She'd helped plan this whole thing. Turns out she'd been talking to my mother for months, coordinating this intervention, because she thought she was helping. My mother had fed her some story about how worried they all were about me, how I was running from my problems, how I needed family support to heal properly. Mom started her usual routine. What they did was wrong, but your actions are unacceptable too. Like somehow me leaving town was equal to my brother fucking my fiancée for 2 years. Dad chimed in about how enough was enough and how Mike had suffered enough for his mistakes. Suffered, he got the girl, kept the family, and I'm the one who needed to get over it. Rachel was there holding Mike's hand, wearing this fancy new engagement ring, pretty sure it was bought with the money from selling my old house, the one Mom had convinced them to invest in as a couple after I left. She tried to speak, probably to share some profound insight about how love works in mysterious ways or whatever bullshit they'd rehearsed. I cut her off, looked right at Sarah. Find your own way home. I'll pick up my things later. Simple. Quiet. Final. Everyone started talking at once. Sarah crying, Mom doing her theatrical gasping thing, Mike trying to play peacemaker like he had any right as I was leaving. Mom grabbed my arm. It started going on about how their family name was so important, how she'd raised me better than this. That's when I told her I'd already changed my last name. Months ago you'd think I told her I'd committed murder. She actually collapsed into a chair, wailing about family legacy and tradition. The drive back to Houston was long and quiet. Had plenty of time to think about how fucking stupid I'd been trusting someone again. Sarah called about 50 times that night, left voicemails about how she was just trying to help, how she thought bringing everyone together would fix things. Classic manipulation victim. My mom had played her just like she played everyone else. Got back to my apartment around 3 a.m., looked at the Christmas tree Sarah and I had decorated together, all the presents still wrapped underneath. Took every gift she'd given me over the past year and put them in a box. Added the spare key she'd left, the toothbrush from my bathroom, everything. Dropped it all off at her place the next morning, before she got back from Dallas. The worst part, found out later that this whole Christmas intervention had been in the works for months. Sarah had been reporting back to my mother about everything, where I was working, who I was hanging out with, if I was dating anyone else. She'd even helped them find my new address, which I'd kept private specifically to avoid this kind of shit. Mom had played Sarah perfectly, shown her old family photos, told stories about how close we all used to be, painted this picture of a concerned mother just trying to help her troubled son, and Sarah, wanting to be the one who fixed everything, fell for it hook, line, and sinker. Then, about a year later, my company won this huge contract to demolish and rebuild a bunch of foreclosed properties in Colorado. Guess whose house was on that list? Yep, my parents' place. The one Mom had remortgaged to pay for Mike and Rachel's dream wedding. The same house where she'd hosted all those family dinners, where she orchestrated her little manipulations, where she'd welcomed my brother and ex into my old room. I personally volunteered to oversee that demolition. Drove up there on a Tuesday morning, watched them tear down every last brick. Mom showed up halfway through, probably tipped off by a neighbor. She looked old, not just old or worn down. Found out later she's working as a Walmart greeter now. First real job she's had in 30 years. Karma's got a sense of humor, I guess. But that's just the beginning. Through Emma, who finally grew a spine and reached out to apologize, I got the full update on everyone's spectacular downfall. Mike and Rachel's perfect marriage crashed and burned 6 months in. Turns out Rachel's got a type. She likes to cheat. Caught her with Mike's best friend. The same guy who was his best man at their wedding. But here's the real kicker. She's pregnant with his kid. The same Rachel who couldn't have children is now carrying his ex-best friend's baby. Mike, he didn't handle it well, started drinking heavily. Lost his job at the music store after showing up drunk one too many times. He's living in mom's basement now, in their crappy rental apartment, writing angsty songs about betrayal. The irony is completely lost on him. Mom and dad finally separated. Turns out mom had been lying about their finances for years, taking out credit cards in dad's name to fund Mike's projects and the wedding. Dad found out when they tried to refinance the house, and the bank laughed him out. He's living with my aunt now. Finally started therapy and actually called to apologize. Said he should have stood up to mom years ago. Rachel's teaching career. Word got around about her history of sleeping with students. Relatives. Yeah, turns out Mike wasn't the first. No school district will touch her now. She's working at a call center, living with her new baby daddy in some rundown apartment complex. Her parents, who were so understanding about her following her heart with Mike, won't even speak to her now. As for me, life's actually pretty good. Met this amazing woman named Molly at the grocery store about a year ago. She's nothing like Rachel or Sarah. She's direct, honest, and actually has a moral compass. We moved in together 6 months ago, and she's pregnant with our first kid. When she found out, she made it clear she didn't want any contact with my family. Even blocked them all on social media before I could ask. Mom somehow found out about the baby. Small town gossip never dies, and sent me a box of my old baby things with this long letter about family legacy and second chances. The baby stuff was mine, so I kept it. But the letter, straight in the trash. She even tried creating new social media accounts to reach me, posting about how much she misses her firstborn and how a child needs their grandmother. Blocked every single account. Emma's getting married next month. She and dad want to reconcile. No mom or Mike involved. Said they've both been in therapy, working through their roles and everything that happened. Emma admitted she was too weak to stand up to mom back then. And dad acknowledged how his passivity enabled everything. Molly says maybe it's time to consider letting them back in, but she's not pushing it. She's seen all the screenshots, read all the manipulative messages, knows the whole story. Says she'll support whatever I decide, but also reminds me that people can change if they do the work. Keyword being if. Here's the thing though, watching Karma finally catch up with everyone has been surprisingly empty. I thought I'd feel satisfied seeing them all suffer, but mostly I just feel relieved. Relieved that I got out. Relieved that I built my own life. Relieved that I broke the cycle at it. For those asking about dad and Emma, still haven't decided if I'll go to the wedding. Some wounds take longer to heal than others.